Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. In last week's blog, I talked about part one of the 7 things families do who make informed decisions, have peace of mind, are in control, have power, and have influence once their loved one is critically ill in intensive care. You can check out last week's blog by clicking on the link below this video. And today I want to welcome you to another video blog here at IntensiveCareHotline.com. Once again, congratulations on taking action in getting informed and taking control whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Just by you doing that, you stand out from the rest of families in intensive care, and it will give you an edge when dealing with the challenges, difficulties, and complexities in intensive care. This blog, as well as our Your Questions Answered section, will help you find your voice, will help you making informed decisions, get peace of mind, take control, have power, and influence decision making fast in the jungle of complexity surrounding intensive care. And it will more importantly help you to be in control, feel powerful, and influence decision making. So in today's video blog, I want to share the 7 things families do who make informed decisions, have peace of mind, are in control, have power, and have influence whilst their loved one is critically ill in intensive care. And that's part 2 today. As I have said many times before, 99% of the families of critically ill patients in intensive care make no informed decisions. They have no peace of mind, no control, no power, and no influence whatsoever. In last week's part 1 of the 7 things families do who make informed decisions, have peace of mind, are in control, have power, and have influence whilst their loved one is critically ill in intensive care, we focused on the first point, which was families of critically ill patients in intensive care are facing reality and accept reality as it is. And I explained in detail what that looks like in practice and how it will help you to get the outcomes that you want, need, and deserve for your critically ill loved one and your family. So today, I want to focus on number 2. And number 2 is families of critically ill patients in intensive care are sticking together no matter what, and they are not intimidated by the intensive care team. This one really stands out, and it usually makes all the difference. If you and the rest of your family are sticking together during times of crisis, no matter what, you will make all the difference and you will be able to make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence. Furthermore, I know from experience that 99% of the families of critically ill patients in intensive care are intimidated by the intensive care team's perceived power and their perceived authority. The few families in intensive care who do make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence are not intimidated. They are, in fact, the master of their own destiny and they act and behave accordingly. Simple, but not necessarily easy. What I have also found over the nearly 2 decades of working in intensive care in 3 different countries, where I also worked as a nurse unit manager for over 5 years, and where I literally worked with and looked after thousands of critically ill patients and their families, and with now also counseling, consulting, and advocating for patients and families in intensive care on a daily basis in my own practice here at IntensiveCareHotline.com, families of critically ill patients in intensive care who stick together and act as a united front during times of crisis, irrespective of whether they have difficult family dynamics or whether they have any other family issues. Those families know and understand that those issues or difficult dynamics need to be laid to rest during times of crisis, and that the only thing that matters is your critically ill loved one and their well-being. I have seen far too many families of critically ill patients in intensive care who are unable to put their family issues and family dynamics aside during times of crisis and act as a united front. This usually doesn't serve anyone, and more importantly, your critically ill loved one is the one suffering from this disharmony. As I've mentioned before briefly, it's nothing to be ashamed of having family issues or family dynamics that are difficult. Every family has those dynamics, period. But because your family and your critically ill loved one are facing a situation that is unique and is in fact a once in a lifetime situation that you know you can't afford to be getting wrong, you need to find a way of putting those family issues and family dynamics aside and act again as a united front in the best interest for your critically ill loved one. If you do that, you will also act in the best interest of your family. After all, your family is very important, and even if you have issues and dynamics that you and the rest of your family don't like, maybe this is the time to reconsider how you are dealing with those issues and dynamics. Furthermore, if you and your family are united, stick together, and act as a cohesive team, it's so much easier for you and your family to have control, power, and influence when dealing with the intensive care team. If you and your family are a cohesive and strong team, it is so much easier for you to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence, and get the outcomes that you want, need, and deserve. Also, speak with one voice, knowing what you want and clearly express what you want, and not having any other family members questioning or interfering in those dynamics is in fact extremely important in this unique and difficult situation. And especially during this time of crisis and during the times when your loved one is critically ill in intensive care, it can and usually does make all the difference. Once again, there is a clear and measurable difference in how much control, power, and influence you have. Not only when dealing with the intensive care team, your critically ill loved one will also feel when you are one united front, and your critically ill loved one will feel that you and your family only have their best interests at heart. I also can't stress enough that 99% of all families of critically ill patients in intensive care are intimidated by the intensive care team's perceived power and their perceived reality. If you can show to the intensive care team that you are not intimidated, it'll make all the difference to the outcomes and treatment you will get for your critically ill loved one. And if you're watching this video today, and if you've made it that far, you may also be interested in using my one-on-one counseling and consulting service over the phone or via email. You can do so by clicking on the link below, above the video on the top of the website where it says counseling and consulting. Moving on, I'll give you an example. So if you get told by the intensive care team that it might be quote unquote in the best interest to withdraw life support and in essence withdraw treatment on your critically ill loved one against your and your loved one's wishes, and you make it very clear that you don't agree with it, it can and will make all the difference. The intensive care team expects you to behave like the 99% of the families in intensive care, and they expect you to give in and they expect you to not question. That's how passive 99% of the families of critically ill patients in intensive care are. They still believe that doctors are God, and they still believe that the doctor's opinions are the only opinions that matter. On the other hand, you need to question everything. Do your own research, get outside help from a professional like myself here at intensivecarehotline.com, and simply do whatever it takes and act and behave accordingly. For example, you can change your belief system. You need to also change your body language, your tone of voice, and you need to start making strong eye contact with the intensive care team, something 99% of families don't do. Have a good posture. Stay positive no matter what. Challenge any negativity that comes your way. How do you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I've got some other videos around that sort of behavior, and I put them below this video in the written version of this blog. So for example, you can look at how to stay positive if your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Also, why your body language may be your biggest obstacle to peace of mind, control, power, and influence when your loved one is in intensive care. And another video and blog is five powerful things you need to do if the intensive care team is negative when your loved one is in intensive care. So go and check out those videos. They will help you as well. Many families who can't put their family issues and family dynamics aside during the times of crisis often have a negative impact on their critically ill loved one's recovery, because their critically ill loved one consciously or unconsciously feels the disharmony, and they therefore are not recovering as quickly as they should do. Sometimes your loved one may even deteriorate, recover slower, or even die because of the disharmony within your family. Also, imagine your critically ill loved one is in an end-of-life situation. You and your family don't want your family dynamics or your family issues dominate an end-of-life situation. Unfortunately, this is what often happens when critically ill patients in intensive care approach the end of life. There often is no peace and no harmony. If you, your family, and your critically ill loved one are in the unfortunate and tragic situation that your loved one approaches the end of life in intensive care, your main goal should be to facilitate a peaceful and harmonic death for your loved one. You and your family and your critically ill loved one want to make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence. And you don't want your family dynamics dominate the situation. I can share with you that I have been involved in many situations, either end-of-life situations or many other situations in intensive care, where family dynamics and family issues were so difficult that situations were getting very chaotic and were almost impossible to manage. And these situations usually leave a bitter taste in everybody's mouth, and it usually doesn't help anyone. Peace and harmony are critical in such difficult situations, and you and your family can usually only achieve that if you have unity. Also, if there is unity, it's also better to look at alternatives, such as intensive care at home services, for example, in end-of-life situations, but also in other situations like long-term mechanical ventilation or long-term life support. Intensive care is a very stressful environment, and usually any non-clinical issues, which is what family dynamics are, only make it more stressful to the detriment of all parties involved. Also, imagine your loved one is in a very difficult and very critical situation. And as I have said in some of my other ebooks and blogs, the health professionals in intensive care have their own ideas and their own hidden agendas. As you may know by now, there are a lot of moving parts and politics behind the scenes that you are usually unaware of, that the intensive care team is trying to keep away from you at any cost. You may have gotten some more insights by now, and if, for example, the intensive care team wants to limit or withdraw treatment for your critically ill loved one in intensive care, but you don't want to have treatment of your critically ill loved one limited or ceased, and if other family members think that this is the right decision, once again, the situation could become very difficult, if not chaotic, to manage, and usually the situation can get out of hand very easily, as you can imagine. But always keep in mind that the person who suffers the most is your critically ill loved one, because they are in the hands of other people. If you and your family, on the other hand, are united, speak with one voice, and stick together no matter what, you will have a much easier task at hand to make your views and concerns heard, and you'll also have a much easier time to control the outcomes that you want. You will have real power, and you will be able to influence the decision making around your critically ill loved one's care and treatment. And I can assure you that you, your family, and your critically ill loved one will be viewed very differently by the doctors and by the nurses in intensive care if you behave that way. You can believe and trust me on this one. Whilst the doctors and nurses in intensive care are certainly trying to deal with your loved one's clinical issues in the first place, messy and difficult family dynamics usually distract everyone from focusing on the main task, which is your loved one's well-being and their recovery. So the bottom line and the main message here really is to get your act together, leave the family issues and family dynamics alone if you have them, and stick together no matter what. You will see the positive difference this will make for all parties involved, period. So, and your ability to quote unquote read the play, so to speak, and your ability to interpret information correctly will make all the difference. So look out for part 3 of the 7 things families do who make informed decisions, have peace of mind, are in control, have power, and have influence whilst their loved one is critically ill in intensive care. It'll be here for you next week. So, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one? How can you make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, real power, and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what is really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care, and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle, and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence in your situation. You will get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. You will get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what is really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's blog, and I'll see you again next week in another update. Make sure you will also check out our Your Questions Answered section, where I answer your questions, or simply send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions, or you can call me. Find international phone numbers on our contacts tab. You can also find more ebooks in our ebook section, and you can also get one-on-one counseling, consulting, and advocacy with me via Skype, over the phone, or via email by clicking on the counseling and consulting tabs on the top of the website. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I will see you again next week in another update.